Hi, I'm Helen Claire Harmon, creator of the School for Humans and Earth. Thanks for finding us on our social media pages. I'm making this video today to tell you about some of our new offerings, including the podcast episodes that are coming out, and also to talk to you a little bit about some of the world crises that we're experiencing right now and how I think we can understand them if we are people who are really concerned about the human-earth relationship and regeneration and healing for Earth and people. So let me start with the podcast. The Humans and Earth podcast has just started being released. You can find it on a number of podcast distributors, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and some others. You also can go to our website, humansandearth.com/podcast, and you can listen to the podcast there. The rest of the website is not quite complete. It's really close, and I'll be formally announcing it through my newsletter sometime in the month of August. As you know, if you read my newsletter, and if you're not on my list, I think right now the sign up button on my website isn't properly hooked up, but if you're not on my newsletter and you'd like to be, just drop me a note here in the comments and I'll make sure to put you on the list. But as I mentioned in the newsletter that came out this weekend, I have already made live an introduction to the podcast and also a really wonderful interview with Rachel Fotenhauer. I think you will really like it a lot if you're at all interested in nature or Earth or the human-Earth relationship or your own wellness. Rachel Fotenhauer is an expert in directly connecting to and communicating with Earth, facilitating healing for people with Earth energy, and teaching people to connect to Earth. Our conversation is really delightful. She offers an Earth connection meditation. One listener has already told me that it was the deepest connection she's ever felt to Earth while listening to Rachel's meditation. So I really encourage you to check it out. Rachel's interview is live now. Again, look for Humans and Earth in your favorite podcast distribution site. You may have to search a little bit since it's a new podcast. It doesn't come up right away. But of course, the fastest way to get it is go to humansandearth.com/podcast. Other episodes that are coming out, I have some really wonderful ones. I will, in just a few days, be releasing my interview with Dr. Kara Gubbins. She is a scientist, ecologist. She has several degrees in the sciences. She's also a professional animal communicator, and she has some really interesting things to say about the human-animal interface and what is happening right now as we make more efforts to connect both our intellectual viewpoint of nature and our spiritual connection to nature. I really enjoyed talking to Kara. I will also be releasing an interview I've already recorded with Dr. Stephan Harding. Stephan is an ecologist and an expert in Gaia studies. He reflects in some really fascinating ways on the connection, the contrast, the interrelationship between rational and spiritual encounters with nature, and he offers his view on how to connect to nature daily in some very simple ways and why he thinks that's so powerful. I will soon be interviewing Dr. Akila Martin. She is both a soil scientist and a life coach, and I can hardly wait to talk to her. I have some friends who are soil scientists. I love soil. I think life coaching is wonderful. So I will be very excited to release the interview with Dr. Akila Martin later in August. I'll also be releasing a wonderful interview that I've recorded with Jaylene Tracy. She's a vibrational geneticist, and she specializes in facilitating healing for people in concert with Earth energies. She also really knows a lot about the microbiome, which of course is the natural world inside of us. So I think you'll enjoy my interview with Jaylene Tracy. Additionally, upcoming is an interview with Lana Schlafer. She is a mindset and miracle expert. I really like Lana a lot. I think her work is very powerful. She and I will be talking about the importance of a carefully chosen mindset if you're trying to do work in service to Earth and the human-Earth relationship. I'm really concerned about the pessimistic, fear-based trend in a lot of our environmental work, and so Lana and I will be offering an alternative way to frame things. Yet one more interview that I have scheduled that I'm really looking forward to is with Dr. Bayo Akomonafe. He is a citizen of the world, a scholar, and a visionary thinker, and I'm sure our conversation is going to be really rich. So once again, find the podcast at humansandearth.com/podcast. I think you'll really enjoy what I'm bringing forward with these interviews, and I think you'll find them very enriching. So before I close today, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the crises that we're facing in the world right now and how I think they're relevant to the human-Earth relationship. 2020 has been quite a year so far. We are, of course, still dealing with the pandemic, which has been very stressful, very difficult, very tragic. We are having a time of really heightened, very much needed, heightened awareness to racism in the United States and elsewhere in the world. And I believe that that heightened attention to racism is very important. It's also quite challenging for us, certainly here in the US, and I think elsewhere in the world as well. This past week, I'm recording this on Saturday, August 8th. This past week, we had the terrible, tragic explosion in Beirut. We have, of course, some wildfires going on in the world and our ongoing environmental and poverty crises. By no means do I think that the major crises of 2020 are distractions. I think they need our attention. They're obviously huge. They're obviously very important. But the point I want to make is that I think we need to be careful not to be distracted by them. They deserve our attention, our very heartfelt, intelligent, caring attention. And I think we also need to be very centered right now in our own values, in whatever wisdom tradition we subscribe to, and we need to be very grounded into the earth. Because this is a year of so much crisis, so much chaos, so much loss and stress and difficulty, it's important that we take it as a transformative opportunity. So whether you're still isolating at home because of the virus or whatever your circumstances are, I really encourage you to be touching in daily, both with your own, we'll say, heart and values, and with the earth. Touch in with your own heart and values daily, because we don't want to get lost in the difficulties of this year. We need to keep our focus on our highest priorities as human beings: being healthy, caring for one another, caring for the earth, building a more just, ecological, sustainable, and regenerative and inclusive society. We also, as we do this, we need to be very connected to our home place. So I very much encourage you to make sure that you have a place where, perhaps indoors, but ideally outdoors, you are connecting to the earth daily. She is our home. She is our life support system. If you listen to Rachel's interview, or really any of the podcast interviews I'm bringing forth, you will be reminded of yet more angles of remembering how earth is actually a source of guidance and wisdom for us. So as we continue to move through this extremely challenging year, I think you'll find that my podcast interviews will bring you some hope, some inspiration, some sense of direction, some grounding, some peace, maybe even some joy, certainly some resources. Also, daily, be connecting in with your heart, your wisdom tradition, your values, your beliefs. As the world seems to fall apart in a lot of ways, please keep your attention on the question of what kind of world do you want to live in? What kind of world do you want to help rebuild as we emerge from this pandemic, whenever we do and however we do? Keep your attention on your own building vision of the world that you desire to live in, and stay connected to the earth, especially when you're feeling stressed or lonely or lost or disoriented, as many or all of us have and felt this year and may continue to feel. Tune in to the planet. She is our mother in many ways. She is a source of nurturing, of sustenance, of comfort, of orientation and grounding and stability. So get your feet on the grass, gaze at the sky, watch the birds, go walking or hiking or cycling if you can, or just sit in a park or your own backyard and be present to the earth, not only because she needs that, as Rachel Fotenhauer explains in her interview in the podcast, but because we need that. So I think I'll close with that. Thanks for being here. I'm really looking forward to being in conversation with you. Please check out the podcast. I think you will love Rachel's interview. And probably next weekend, I will be releasing Kara Gubbins and Stephen Harding's interviews. After that, Akila Martin, Jaylene Tracy, Lana Schlafer, and Bayo Akomolafe, and so many more wonderful conversations after that. And when I announce the full opening of the Humans and Earth website in the next week or 2 or 3, I will be really excited to tell you about some one-on-one mentoring that I'm offering. There will continue to be lots of free offerings from the School for Humans and Earth, the podcast, the newsletter, videos like this. I also will be bringing forth one-on-one mentoring, and before too long, an e-course, and then probably several more. So thanks for being here. Please feel free to share information about us with anyone you think would be interested. And that's all for today.